I will start just with my a very short introduction, and then we'll give floor to you, Ilia. So let me share my screen first. Oh, a second. Okay, yeah. So just my task is just to give just a context of the project that we are working with Ilia with. So the thing is that just I am here to say a few words about the project that's called Russian Independent Media Archive. And so that is an initiative by Bard College and PEN America that's started, publicly started this April. So, and our goal is just to create an open access digital archive of the work of the Russian independent journalists since the year 2000. And the thing is that we have three goals, and the first one is just to preserve this legacy and just prevent this media from being blocked or lost. Then just we are planning to use the potential of data, because we think that having these materials and these articles as a data set opens up new possibilities for just for the research and education. And then we hope to scale this project more so that we can use it as a tool for other countries and other communities. So, and for the moment being, so we have kind of around 2 million articles in the archive and 44 media outlets collected, but we're gonna have many more. And here, just I'm happy to give Ilia an opportunity to talk about the very first stages of our project that is called Media Censorship Detector, and that is just the way to demonstrate the potential of the data we have in our archive. So, Ilia, please go on.
Thank you, Ilia. Before I get into details, let me briefly remind the background information about Russia and Russian media sphere, because the details will be more understandable if we keep in mind that Russia is an electoral democracy on the surface, but actually it's an authoritarian country. And this country enjoyed relative freedom of media during 1990s. It was a transitional period from the Soviet time to the current state of affairs. And let me remind that Putin's rule in the very beginning started with the destruction of independent television channel NTV. And starting from that moment, the censorship and the pressure on media tightened, and that the situation became the most problematic with the beginning of the war. And so what media sphere and the news that Russian people are consume, this media sphere is composed from a group of official sources, government-controlled, immediately government-controlled media outlets, some independent, well, relatively independent, having no links with Russian government news sources. Some of them are located outside the country, and currently the policies of the Russian authorities are against those media outlets located in other countries, because they accuse other countries of all kinds of interventions. And some of independent media outlets are labeled foreign agents, institutional label of foreign agents. And people who are actively working in media, like Ilia Venyavkin, who started this presentation, are labeled foreign agents as persons. So foreign agents are like villains and official institutions in Russia are prohibited from cooperating with such persons and entities. My interest to media started when I developed a news aggregator. Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Window. Microsoft PowerPoint. Yes. I can't share my screen for some reason. Let me try. Jiron, maybe you can help me sharing the presentation.
Yes, I'm trying to. Yes, give me one moment.
Thank you. So the idea is that we try to use data analysis to show the degree of government control over the news agenda. We should know that the presidential office in Russia, starting from like some 20-something years ago, used to organize monthly and bi-weekly meetings with chief editors of media outlets to set the agenda, to explain what kind of news and events should be actively covered. And so the participation in those meetings was important to control.
Sorry, is this the right one?
Yeah. Exactly. Can we see the next slide, please? This is the interface of the news aggregator that showed, it is completely in Russian, but let me explain. We have in the upper side of the screen, we have the titles of the news and links to the top news from independent media sources. In the below them, there is a list with a TV set icon. The top news from pro-government, pro-Kremlin news sources. And we have different buttons in this Telegram bot: who, where, what, and subscription and search. So we just, next slide, please. We just did what any news aggregator does. First, collecting the news, then processing them, recognizing the names of persons, the locations and organizations mentioned there, clustering them, that is, determining different news about the same events, and selecting news belonging to different categories. So what we compare in our data science methods is the news, because apart from the news, we have texts which represent analytics and interviews. So we take only news. We don't take sports, culture, and so on. We take politics, society, and economy, and we generate relevant results. Next slide, please. So at some point, I noticed that media measuring agencies publish their ratings, collecting the number of mentions of different personalities. And Vladimir Putin is in the first line. You see more than 3 million mentions in 2019. Next slide, please. But we had much data, annotated data in the news aggregator, and we could see that Vladimir Putin is mentioned in the titles of the news in all the news outlets. But Alexei Navalny, who's in prison now and who's the main opposition figure, is mentioned only in a part of media, mostly in independent media, and a little bit in the gray zone, which is controlled through ownership and which is controlled indirectly They do not belong to the government, but they are owned by the oligarchs associated to some extent with Kremlin. And so because Russian censorship is using silencing as a method, so some events and some persons are not mentioned at all. And it's a different approach compared, for example, to Hungary, because in Hungary, Orban's propaganda is painting black the villains. So Navalny, if he would be an opposition figure in Hungary, would be painted black and mentioned in all the pro-government media in Hungary. In Russia, it's a different situation. And so can we see later slides? Next one. We can calculate how the media agenda differ and can show the distance between media in terms of agenda. Next slide, please. It is easier to see it here. Different news outlets group according to agenda, and the agenda is measured in terms of mentioning this or those persons in the titles of their news. And next slide, please. The same machinery will be used by Russian Independent Media Archive. We just started this project, and we only worked with the data from 2020. But we will analyze all the data during, like starting from 2003, probably, or even earlier. We will show how the agendas of different news sources are changing across time, and how the government control expands during this time period. Next slide, please. And probably even let us go to the last two slides that show how with those data, yes. So you can see how we calculate from the data from 2020 what media are promoting and whom they are silencing respect to other media, respect to some level that would be considered as reality. So we depart from the idea that there are some important events, important for society, important for people to know. And some media are silencing some of those important things. And this can be measured and can be shown as representation of censorship, or more exactly, government control.